Today, I attempt to rebuild the transmission for my 1972 Volkswagen Beetle. It's important to note, this is not the original transmission. This is a transmission that came out of a 73 Super Beetle I parted out, because the original transmission was less than usable and is being parted out. All the transmission parts can be bought on eBay right now, link in the description. Let's get straight into it. Okay, here we got the new transmission. You can see the differential right here that we're about to remove. Oh, this little booger is the bane of my existence. Be sure to do exactly as I didn't do and keep the ring gear away from metal objects that could ruin it. So the differential appears to be in good condition. Wait a minute! Where's the gasket? There's supposed to be a paper gasket that sits between the transmission case and the side cover. But obviously, in this case, for whatever reason, such gasket does not exist. You can see in here, there's this thing with ridges. This is actually a nut that holds this entire thing together. Now there is a $400 specialty tool that would make this job a whole lot easier, but if you're cheap like me, a simple punch and hammer will work just fine. Oh man, that stuff is heavy. With that basically impossible to remove booger out of the way, we can move on to some easier stuff. So there's a little circlip in here. Fortunately, unlike some other circlips I've met, their circlip has holes in it so that you can remove it easily. Huh? But unfortunately, my phone died and I didn't notice until it was too late. After removing that circlip, you would go ahead and take that gear with the long section of metal behind it and slide it back towards the engine side of the transmission. Then you would unthread the shaft from the other shaft because they are threaded together with a little stud. And the gear can be pulled off the shaft, so can the circlip, and the shaft can be put out the input hole. We can take this little guy, dry it off, and stick it in the drip pan with everything else. Goodness, someone's got a fire spitting tune. Next up, we gotta remove all the 11mm nuts to remove this nose cone. Right, with all those bolts removed, the nose cone should now come off. It appears the shifter fork wasn't engaged with any of the gears. You can see how this works. There's one gear. There's another gear. This must be the reverse, because it just will not go down. There's another gear. And there's another gear. Now, we gotta get all of these 13mm nuts removed. Oh my gosh, the stud came out. Alright, before we move on, probably should have done this sooner, but we're going to go ahead and get this brand new, oh boy, gasket removed. I've also made the mistake of leaving a bunch of old gasket material here, so we're going to go ahead and deal with that as well. Alrighty, we got all the old gasket off, so I'm going to go fetch something to place this transmission assembly on, and then remove the transmission assembly. And apart. Definitely not the ideal method, but as long as it doesn't break, it's good. And that tells me that we are free. This is most definitely the heaviest part of the transmission. What am I missing? Nothing, apparently. There we go. We get the transmission out. What was that? That was the sliding reverse gear. This surprised me because when I took the 1972 transmission apart, the reverse gear didn't fall out. It couldn't, because it was held in place by a brass cage. This one, however, isn't. This one is held in place by a little piece of metal very similar to a woodruff key. Said piece of metal sits inside a groove in the gear that the 1972 doesn't have. But, with all that nonsense aside, we can order some new parts, like gaskets, and put the transmission back together. Alright, it's been a few weeks. We've got a bunch of the old parts cleaned. We've got a bunch of new parts in, and some gasket sealer. We're ready to get this thing put back together. Toothless! Our poor cat's getting dive bombed by a bird. Here's the first gasket I'm going to be using. Bird, will you leave the poor cat alone? Tiger! Look who I found outside for the second time. Okay, we're also going to be taking some of this gasket sealer and coating both sides of the gasket to create a good, proper seal. If the can will open, that took quite enough effort, but it's finally open, and this stuff absolutely stinks. The key is to coat both sides and to clean both mating surfaces where the gasket sits. Where is this? Oh, here we go. Okay, how are we gonna go about this? We got it. Ow. We also have 2 tubes of Loctite. 1 tube is blue, 1 tube is red. For this nut that decided it wanted to be a bolt, we're going to be using some red Loctite, so that hopefully if this transmission gets pulled apart again, the nut will come off and the stud won't. Ideally, that's how it would go. Before we put the nose cone on, we need a gasket for it. We have a brand new nose cone gasket. First, we got to make sure the mating surface is clean. That is not clean. We take our clean shift fork and our soon-to-be clean nose cone. Combine the two. Here is one of the many hard parts, making sure the shifter fork is in the shifter rails. Okay. I do believe everything is in good order now. I don't even know what happened to me tightening down the nuts, but for whatever reason, the footage is lost. I hope this is an input seal. I'm pretty sure I saw this seal leaking, so we're gonna go ahead and replace it. These are some strange washers if I've ever seen any. We can move on to getting the output shaft, no, the input shaft. This is output. We can move on to getting the input shaft put in. What this little doohickey does, the clutch goes here. The clutch is attached to the engine via clamping force. And this takes power from the engine and puts it in the transmission. Okay, before we get this little guy put in, we need to get this guy put in. This little guy needs to go in here. Push this through all the way, if you please. Tighten that down all the way as far as it will go. If the splines don't line up, then it needs to be loosened slightly. Like that. Before I forget it, this little guy needs to be put in. That's very important. Oh, man. And it would seem I forgot this very important washer. So now this has to come back out. Okay, With that nut now properly installed with the washer, we can move on to my second least favorite part. So you know what, this snap ring is supposed to go in first. Now is the time where we put in the differential. Because there's only one side cover on this case, there's only one way this differential can go in, and that is this way. Trying not to ruin anything. Trying not to get my fingers flattened here. Oh, there's actually more space in there than I thought. Okay, we're in. Okay, long side up. All the way on. That one actually fit pretty nice. Now we take our only side cover plate, also with the long side up, making sure everything is nice and clean so we don't get any debris, and it's a good thing I checked because I see some debris in there. Oh wait, wrong tab. Making sure the differential is all lined up. Ow. I grow tired of my phone repeatedly dying and losing footage. Perhaps it'd be a good idea to recharge my phone before each recording. It's also unfortunate I didn't get a chance to record installing the transmission. Because without the car like 10 feet in the air, it's very hard to do so. But the transmission is painted and installed with brand new polyurethane mounts. So now I'll show you installing the shifter coupler. Okay, with the transmission now back in the car, we can get the shifter coupling installed. Now the specific shift coupler I'm using is a heavy-duty polyurethane shift coupler. And because it is a 1972, it is of the late style. Now you've already got the coupler installed on the rod. There's a clip of that that's going to play right now. Good riddance. But now that we've got this put on the rod itself, we need to take this little grub screw and some safety wire and get this attached to that. At which point we can find out whether or not I ruined this transmission. Come on. Let me go get the shifter. That's good. "43 gigs of data I just deleted so I could keep recording." Nope, there's nothing wrong with the coupler. That just went in. Woohoo! That wasn't supposed to do that. There you go. Get rub screw. Right, in it on. Okay. First. second, third, fourth, and reverse. Woohoo! It works! Let's go! Thread that into the hole right there. Pull it all the way up. Twist this around. We're gonna bend this in a loop to make that easier. Okay, and to my knowledge, that bolt isn't going anywhere. And with that, our unprofessionally rebuilt transmission has brand new polyurethane mounts and is ready for an engine and some rebuilt axles. Is it going to be seeing either anytime soon? No. I won't be seeing axles for a few weeks, and I won't be seeing an engine for a few months. But it will. And that's the good thing. If you want to see that, make sure you leave a like and subscribe. This is Droids and Bricks signing off.
Yep, I don't think it's supposed to be doing that.